But as far as identifying them ahead of time, it'd be really difficult to do because of HIPAA, and there has to be a collaborative effort between the school and the parent. We can't just as a school say, let's line up the kids, ask them 10 questions, and find out if there's any concerns.
Are you allowed to keep in their records medications that
Yes.
they are on?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely.
One of the things that I deal with a lot, I work with the Wapaka County Sheriff's Department at Rawhide Boys Ranch up near New London, and invariably the young men who are incarcerated at Rawhide Boys Ranch have been the victims of bullying or have been involved in bullying. So if we're looking for actions that we can address at a school level, a lot of times people who are involved in school shootings have been the victims of bullying or have been outcasts, and that's something that we're addressing with the students that I talk to, the boys at Rawhide, about when they go back, when they leave that facility, how they need to deal with situations like that. And at the same time, I don't know what happens. I can't speak for what happens at schools around here, but my kids, high school, my son's a junior there. They have a very solid anti-bullying program to make sure that if something is happening to a kid, if a kid becomes an outcast, that they talk to them about that and they address those issues and keep an eye on that.
Thank you.
Thank you.
You bring up a really good point, though, because Kip Kinkle, the kid that went into Thurston High School when I was there, was on Prozac. He had a fascination with guns and weapons, and to bond with his father, he had bought a weapon, and was one of the issues that they didn't play when they obviously shouldn't have made the decision that they should have made at the time. Is there any concern at all in looking at the kids, because I know with HIPAA violations you cannot know all the medications, but you guys know, and I'm sure that you're aware of families, when you see what is going beyond concealed carry and wanting to know more about weapons, can you tell a difference when a child or even an adult has a fascination that goes beyond ordinary? No? Too difficult to tell? Yeah, because I can imagine in all of your professions you've seen quite a bit. It's all of who ends up going over the line, right? And picking that out is too difficult to tell. Okay. I always love a question that I ask and it's stump. Right? It really helps the show go along.
I don't want you to leave me there.
Yeah, don't leave me hanging, Sherry. Don't leave me hanging.
I'll just say an investigation that we were involved in some time ago actually originated from a father asking for help with his son. Really felt that there was some dangerous thoughts, I think, that his son was having. We did, I think, what I felt was a very extensive investigation that was within our abilities. The school was involved in it also, and I think handled their end as much as possible, and then we also engaged the mental health services from Washington County. In the end, nobody can really say that predict what may or may not the thoughts were, or if anything more serious could have transpired if the father hadn't spoken up. But in the end, what it really kind of came down to is going forward, none of those agencies, none of those government units were really going to affect much of what that student did in the future. It was really the parents, people who have that personal legal authority over them, and being with them every day and that kind of thing to really influence or monitor behavior. And honestly, there's just nothing in the criminal laws or mental health laws that would have allowed for anybody to take the person into custody or mandatory treatment or anything like that. It didn't get to that level in any manner. So it was more of gut feelings, strange behavior, if you want to call it that.
But the parent realizing that, calling.
But the parent intervention is what got started, and hopefully keeps it under control on whatever needs that person has, getting them addressed going forward. So I guess I just really like that story as far as
You guys
comes
are the
from all
best eyes.
directions and things change. Human beings change minute by minute, and it's just, you know, they can be different every day. So it's pretty hard to predict with any certainty that kind of thing, I think. And I think most of us realize that.
I'm Mike, and I'm the administrator of a small private school up in Green Bay, and we're a church ministry. And all of our discussion so far has been about private schools, I guess like Moraine Lutheran here, that doesn't seem like it's directly affiliated with a church that is it's a ministry of a direct church other than synod. How does that change? I've heard things back and forth that you're a church, so you're kind of on your own, but you're still a school, so therefore the school rules kick in. And so in our ministry, we're kind of going back and forth right now about which rules apply to who and to when. Because I've heard one church say, well, we have the right to do it if we want to, and so they're kind of moving forward with it. We've heard others say, no, you're still a school, so therefore those rules kind of kick in. So I don't know who is able to address that, but I would be interested in that.
Can't answer all that, but just to explain, we are also a church ministry. Kettle Lutheran High School is owned and operated by 28 churches in the area. So as those churches gather together to own us, they publicly elect their board of directors, which then governs over all of our policies. So any kind of change or in policy about concealed carry or school security goes through a board of directors, which represents 28 churches in the area.
The difference would be that our school is on the property of the church.
At this point, if you have a church that's standalone and there is no educational wing to that church, a concealed carry individual can go into that church without breaking the law. But the moment you attach any kind of educational building to that church and you've got education going on, then you fall under the current laws of Wisconsin.
Anybody else? All right. Did you guys have any questions coming here today when you were preparing and thinking about this that you thought that you would be asked?
What was running through my head as I drove down today was trying to gauge the mood of the crowd, and I'm wondering if just the people who are here today are already behind the idea of protecting their schools, or are still trying to come to terms with the idea of having armed protection for students at their schools.
Is everyone mostly in agreement with the proposal? Yes, raise your hands. I know, it's one of those things to actually say in public. And for those who aren't, what are your fears? Let's talk about what are your concerns.
I'm concerned about the training and being on and off associated with law enforcement. We have escalation of force. You always want to be one level above, but in some cases with an attack, you got to be right on the money and make a fast decision. So we're talking somewhat academic here, but from a practical standpoint, I want to be very sure that we have some good recurrent training, some follow through and so on, at least as best as we can control within this realm.
I just want to agree with that statement. That's my greatest concern as an administrator of this school. If and when this law does pass and our board of directors discusses it and uses this as an opportunity, as another layer of protection for our students, my job will be to make sure that we've got the right training, the right people, and that it's always monitored and repeated over and over again, and that we never get in the way of law enforcement.
And would that be something that would be up to the schools and not just, okay, a lot of schools are like, I don't want to take care of all that administrative work, I'm going to leave it up to the state. You know?
No, I'm more than willing to do it because I'm more than willing to go through all that.
Okay.
My training, the only thing that's hampering my training right now is the fact that I can't afford a lot of the programs that are out there. In the tactical training that I took, I provided 2,000 rounds, which went downrange towards target. Now, that was a huge expense for me. The tactical training was done free. The only thing I had to do was to pay for the range time, because my tactical trainer felt so strongly to have somebody trained to react to a school situation. So the only thing that really holds me back from further training is the expense. I'm not a wealthy person, and I can't afford to do some of the training I would really love to do.
As a parent, with, like I said, 4 kids attending a parochial school, obviously tuition is a huge expense for my wife and I. However, I expect that the teachers who teach my children know how to handle, know how to use the Heimlich maneuver, and know how to possibly even administer CPR and those kind of things. I can tell you, I'd be very willing and open to talking about an increase in tuition in order to provide that training that my school, which I believe it 100% needs to be at the decision of the school itself, the level of training that it would take for that teacher to have that additional skill of protecting my 4 or 5 children when and if there was a situation would arise.
I also think that we're talking about letting it be a decision per school. If there is no one that would step forward, we're asking for volunteers. If there's no one that would step forward and absolutely feel comfortable, this is not a force issue. You can't force them to, well, I'm sorry, you're carrying a weapon, it's part of our school policy. So that has to go into practicality mode, that someone that is just absolutely uncomfortable with this is not going to be forced to carry through with carrying a weapon. So.
I think as we face the issue of training and what training people will get to carry out the duties that we're going to ask them to do, we need to be absolutely realistic in understanding that putting 2,000 rounds downrange certainly does help, but there is a lot of training that can be done less expensively than that, and the idea of effective training begins around effective decision making. So that's an understanding of what could happen and what you should do. I call it playing the what if game. What will I do if? And all of us who are law enforcement officers get lots of opportunity to think about what we will do in such case. But if you look at national statistics, we're talking about maybe a 25% hit ratio of shots fired when we're in a shots fired situation. So the idea of that it's going to cost thousands and thousands of dollars to put people on a range and make them proficient, I think that will probably be money that should be spent on decision making and learning the intricacies of your building and what you might do on there. There's also opportunities to train with different technologies, laser technologies and things like that, which can build up a muscle memory you need to do what you need to do, but more importantly is the decision making. Your body can't go where your mind has not been, so you need to think about what you're going to do.
And the good thing is we're not alone. There are communities across the United States that have gone through this decision making and gone through the training. So we'll certainly count on USCCA to gather that information, and as we evolve, we'll want to watch what other communities have done.
The training is out there. There's lots available. The cost might be prohibitive, but it shouldn't be. And there's always ways to solve money problems. That's not the issue. What I'm always concerned about, though, is if we're going to train, I personally want to train on this campus so that we can react to specific circumstances. I can send 5 teachers and staff members out to someplace out in the woods, someplace that they can tactically train, but that doesn't help in a school shooting.
Well, that's a good point. In one of those, when we were talking about each individual school, when you were talking about your kids going out to the woods and, having that parameters of what is in that location. good point.
There's value to that, by the way, but I still need to know that it
Right.
applies to our circumstance, and that's what I would be looking for through organizations.
Yes, yeah, the best training that you will get for your school will be conducted at your school premises, absolutely.
Sergeant, did you have something?
One of the questions I was anticipating getting is what if, you know, with all the chaos that occurs when a school shooting happens, what happens if the teacher or adult, you know, misses and there's all these other kids running around, you know, and another student gets shot. My answer to that is what is better? In police work, it's called the greater danger theory. What's the greater danger? Letting the person continue to actively kill students or trying to stop him or her?
Right now, too, when we were talking about the different situations with the school, so if the students right now are doors being locked and they're hiding, okay? But you were talking about your kids, you've told them this is what they should do. Where does the student have any, I mean, they have to listen to what they're being told to do, correct? So is it really one of those that parents need to get involved in this kind of training and the lockdown? I will tell you that I'm negligent. I get the emails saying that it's going to happen in the next 2 weeks, and I know it's going to happen so that I can talk to my son when he comes home at night about how to go, that kind of thing. But I don't really know exactly how it went down that day and what to tell him as a parent. Any parents want to address that?
I just have thought of the focus of the active shooter training is to get your kids to hide. How do your children feel when they're hiding under a desk?
Fearful.
How do you feel? And my kids I can't remember the last time we did it, was last year, and when they came home, they were fearful. It promoted fear in that situation, and what a great idea, what a great opportunity it would be if we could also carry out the protection side of it, that a teacher could step up, and they trust their teachers hands down, and for the teacher to be able to say, okay,